Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the March 28th, 2018 edition of The Breast There Is, The Breast There Was, and The Breast There Ever Will Be Wrestling Podcast. As always, I am your host, Mikey B. WWE, and I'm here to give you all the latest news and developments in the WWE over this past week. Now, admittedly, I know I am a day or two behind here. This week's action has already taken place, which I have yet to watch. So I'm discussing events from the past week, meaning the 19th and 20th of March. I will catch up with this week's tomorrow, just so we keep in the proper lineage with everything here. Now, before I get to all the news from last week, and there was some big stuff, big news for sure, huge development actually. I forgot to mention on my previous podcast my updated prediction rate after the Fastlane pay-per-view. At the last podcast, I discussed my results from my predictions from Fastlane, but I failed to provide my updated prediction rate. So the current one heading into WrestleMania this year now, I have 58 correct out of 99, which gives me 59% correct matches guessed. So heading into Mania, which will be the final one of the year to tabulate all the matches for this year for the pay-per-view matches. So hopefully I can get into the 60 percentile rounding up the year, and then we'll see if I keep boosting that percentage up for next year. Anyways, getting back to the action. Starting with Monday Night Raw on the 19th. The show opened up with General Manager Kurt Angle soon being interrupted by the recently suspended Roman Reigns. Reigns decided just to show up unannounced, and looking for action. He wanted to confront Vince, confront Brock, as Vince McMahon said the week before that Brock Lesnar would be there. So soon after he confronted Angle, there were security that came down and put handcuffs on Roman Reigns, and at the worst timing possible, right as they were finished handcuffing him, and Roman Reigns amazingly was able to defend himself with handcuffs on against the security. Brock Lesnar's music hits, he comes down and then proceeds to come down to the ring and pummel the handcuffed Roman Reigns, who could do very little to oppose that. So that's certainly just, they're trying to heat up that rivalry a bit more, create some sort of a buzz or interest surrounding that matchup, even though it's one we've already seen at WrestleMania. The next piece of news is that Mark Henry, otherwise known as the world's strongest man, is the latest inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame. We also learned that Sasha Banks and Bayley, after they've been certainly not seeing eye to eye lately, they had a confrontation. Sasha confronted Bayley, asking her what's going on, and normally in her upbringing, she usually confronts people and they resolve issues when they have them. So she wanted to try and hash things out with Bayley. Bayley's response was that in recent events, and specifically at the Elimination Chamber after Bayley was eliminated, Sasha apparently gave her a look that was sort of sticking it to her. It was a look that made Bayley sick to her stomach. So these two, it sounds like this is definitely culminating some sort of a matchup. So we'll see if this one will be slotted for WrestleMania or not, or if they're both going to be into the women's Battle Royal match, the first ever at WrestleMania. But regardless, Bayley and Sasha Banks, this is certainly a program that is starting to heat up. And we also, once again, heard from John Cena in regards to his proposed challenge to The Undertaker. He said that Undertaker is a coward and that he has still not received any response for a match. Soon after making all these statements, The Undertaker's brother Kane came down to the ring and attacked John Cena, which was followed soon after by an announcement that on this week's edition of Raw, Kane would face off against John Cena. So it appears that the WWE is certainly trying to string along or milk along this potential matchup with Cena and The Undertaker. I think at this point it's got to be a foregone conclusion that it is happening. Again, I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who has not seen the programs this week yet, so I don't know. I can't confirm if we learn anything more this week, but they're certainly trying to bide their time leading up to this feud and create, sort of like with the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar matchup, create a bit of a buzz between these two. Not that there's really much need of one in this case, since John Cena and The Undertaker are such major figures in the history of this company that the two of them fighting at WrestleMania itself almost needs no build-up whatsoever. Since they've never fought on this big stage before, it's already going to create so much interest with the WWE universe. So, but it also makes sense that for them to try and create some sort of an animosity between the two, or else why else would they really be fighting besides the fact that they haven't at WrestleMania before. So we shall see if The Undertaker has responded yet, but I think we can all safely say that this match is going to happen at WrestleMania. There should be no doubt anymore. If somehow, by some unforeseen circumstances, the WWE does not make this match happen, after all of this potential build-up and gauging of the crowd's interest, that would be just one of the most evil things they could do. So, yeah, I'm fully expecting this match is going to go as planned. We just might not receive word of it officially from Undertaker's perspective until maybe the week before or this week. We'll see. But, yeah, so this match, I believe, is going to proceed ahead. And besides this, the main event of Monday Night Raw was the Ultimate Deletion match between Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt at the Hardy compound. Nothing really too notable about this match, other than it being a bit bizarre. It was mainly outdoors. I don't know. This isn't unlike anything we have seen before in the WWE. I think it's good though, just to create some sort of an interest with these two. With them having both the bizarre personalities, they have to try and utilize them in different ways to create interesting matches and extend this feud or this program. But and I was saying on a previous podcast a few weeks ago that I anticipated this Ultimate Deletion match taking place at WrestleMania. But after watching it and after learning more about it prior to the match last week on Monday Night Raw, it makes a lot more sense that they decided to hold this on Monday Night Raw instead of WrestleMania, considering that this was a location matchup. And I think that would have been certainly unfair to the live audience at WrestleMania if you have to watch an entire match on the screen that's not even there in person. So, because they did that earlier, I guess shortly after WrestleMania last year with the Bray Wyatt fighting off against Randy Orton, and they had that match that took place in the House of Horror style, and then it eventually led back to the arena, which was it didn't make a whole lot of sense. So the fact that they did this sort of one and done thing at the Hardy compound on location, I think was fine. But considering the outcome, which had Bray Wyatt being tossed into, quote, the lake of reincarnation, we shall see. This feud, I don't believe is I think it's long from over. So we'll see what more how they can create more of a buzz and carry on this feud even longer. So I'm sure that this isn't the final contest we will see between these two, but it remains to be seen what they're going to do as far as the storyline between these two from now on. Now, moving over to SmackDown Live, which features the huge news of the week, some of the biggest news in the WWE in a long time, I must say, which is that we learned, certainly surprisingly, that General Manager of SmackDown Live, Daniel Bryan, former champion, has been cleared to return back to wrestling after being off for a few years because doctors were not medically clearing him for that long. Huge news, and it's a great coup for the WWE. He's easily one of the best wrestlers currently in the WWE, and many would say one of the greatest wrestlers of all time in any promotion, not just the WWE. So this is a major deal to have him come back. I'll already say this: considering that the WWE loves to have within their storylines a lot of family squabbles and feuds and programs, you can bet that now that Daniel Bryan is able to wrestle again, at some point this year, we're going to see some sort of a John Cena, Nikki Bella taking on Brie Bella, Daniel Bryan, some sort of a program there. Just a hunch, but the WWE they definitely don't like to pass up on opportunities like this. So you can bet on that happening. But regardless, in spite of that potential feud that we might see later this year, we're going to see lots of great Daniel Bryan matchups and programs. I mean, the guy is so versatile. He can work with anybody and put on great performances. So this is fantastic news for the WWE. Fantastic news for certainly Daniel Bryan and his family. This is just great for everybody, and it's great timing as well that this clearance came certainly in time for WrestleMania. So, this makes you wonder, and it was, I would say that there was a lot of uncertainty as far as what they were going to do with Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan and their involvement or lack thereof with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I should note that there is more developments that happened on this episode of SmackDown Live, which I'll get to in just a few moments. Let me first mention the only other major development on SmackDown Live, which was that we learned that Jinder Mahal is now going to be competing in the United States title match at WrestleMania in a triple threat against Bobby Roode and Randy Orton. This was something which I foresaw a few weeks ago, because like I've been saying for basically the last month or two, WrestleMania, just so they can try and fit as many performers on the card, we're going to see many triple threats, fatal four-ways, things like that, not just single one-on-ones or single tag team against single tag team. There's not as much of that this year because there's so much talent and they're trying to fit everybody on this card, even though the pay-per-view is certainly going to last probably 4.5, 5 hours again. But anyways, back to Daniel Bryan. So towards the end of the show, he resumed his general manager duties, since he still is technically the general manager, and he addressed Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn after their vicious attack on Shane McMahon the week before. After consideration, he decided to tell those guys, regardless of how much talent he believes they both have, that those actions are inexcusable, and proceeded to fire both Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, which was also huge. Sami Zayn and Kevin proceeded to then beat up and pummel Daniel Bryan after that. And it was neat because before they took advantage of him, we got to see Daniel Bryan use some of his moves in the ring, as sort of a counter attack to the two of those guys. And he looks great. He's flying around the ring. So it doesn't look like he's slowed down. It looks like his conditioning is probably right where it was before he went down with the injury. So in my opinion, I think this is going to shape up to be either a triple threat or a fatal four-way. Big surprise. It's unclear whether or not Shane McMahon, at this point in time, again, since I haven't seen SmackDown yet from last night, it's unclear whether or not Shane McMahon will be a part of this match. I assume he will be in some capacity. I would hope as a special guest referee. I don't know. Perhaps it's just me, but I think there's got to be a lot of people that think that we don't really need to see Shane McMahon fight anymore. He's not really a wrestler, and he's also getting up there in age. I would much rather see three bona fide, best in the world caliber guys like Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn put on a fantastic clinic of a wrestling match and tear the house down, the three of them. I do feel, though, just because there's been so much quarreling with Shane among those other three over these past few months, that he's might find his way in the match too as a wrestler. But I'm hoping for a triple threat with Shane McMahon being a special guest referee or some other role within the match. But regardless, this is the big news. Daniel Bryan's back, and there's so many options who he can compete with. Think about, even since he's been out in the last few years, the talent that the WWE has acquired with AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, There's so many guys he can do great feuds with, whom he hasn't had a chance to have any programs with. So this is great news. I'm going to wrap things up so I can catch up on this week's Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live, and I'm going to be doing an additional podcast tomorrow. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked what you heard today, and feel free certainly to leave any questions or comments below. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.